I'm so glad to be here together. I am back from vacation and feel greatly restored, or in fact, someone said, hit the reset button. And man, does that feel good. I hope all of you are finding some ways to do that this summer. I got to read a whole book from beginning to end. Can't tell you the last time that happened. And it wasn't self-help or work-oriented or anything. It's just for funsies. Yeah, it was great. And on the way home, I got to dip into the Sun magazine, which is one of my favorite little publications. It's one of the few things I subscribe to. And I wanted to share with you an interview that I read in that more recent issue, because I feel like it pertains, first of all, to our well-being and the challenges of living in the society and the earth as it is right now. It's a very noisy place, you might have noticed. But also, I think it pertains beautifully to yoga and some of what we are trying to achieve when we're tuning in to breath, when we're tuning into our interior landscape. So I'm going to share a little Dharma talk today, as we call them. Those are traditionally a part of yoga. They're often at the beginning of practice, and they're usually kind of philosophical in nature. So this interview got me thinking about the nature of quiet and noise. The gentleman that they were interviewing has basically made it his life's work to record nature primarily. So he's gone to the far reaches of the earth and recorded every possible natural sound that you can imagine. As a result, he's also observed how short the moments are, even when he's deep in nature, between hearing sounds of non-nature. So jet airplanes, traffic from miles off, the hum of machinery, etc. And as my yogis who I was talking to yesterday pointed out, then you have light pollution, which he doesn't even go into. But those of us here, I know in rural Wisconsin, have all noticed the change over the years. Walmart distribution center being among them. So, but from a sound standpoint, like I said, the interview is very interesting and it's much longer and more complex, but some of the basic things that it points out that I think are really critical is, number one, the effect of vibration and sound, noise sound, not natural sound, on both animal and human entities is a lot greater than we really are aware of. And some scientists, of course, are studying that, but we tend to be kind of oblivious to it. And I think we get kind of used to things. We've got a fan going right now and there's traffic that goes by, and those are just kind of things we adjust to. But the result is often that there are parts of us that stay on like high alert. We don't go into a deeper state of relaxation where we get the true repair that our body needs, especially if our sleep is being affected by sound. So it's just one more way, I think, in which it's difficult to be a modern human being and to find those deeper states of renewal and reset and rest and digest. We've been talking about that a lot in recent months, kind of referring to the vagus nerve and so on. I was thinking about this a little bit before I read the article. I was at my partner's parents' house, and they live in an absolutely beautiful, serene space and yard, but they are also on a busy intersection, and you don't see the vehicles, but you'll all of a sudden hear like screeching tires of somebody, who didn't see someone coming, kind of thing. And it was very interesting to notice how all of a sudden, every fiber in your being becomes alert, even though I'm not driving, I'm not on the road, not my job to care. It doesn't matter. My absolute nervous system is like, bing, what's going on? So, to a certain extent, this is beyond our conscious control, and I recognize that. However, what we have incredible power to do is within our choice making is to cultivate practices that create our own internal quieting. And breath practice is one of those, meditation, another. I've cultivated the capacity, in fact, to meditate in airports. And so the next time you're somewhere challenging, I invite you to actually choose to try some meditating. And it's quite fun to see both the challenges, but also what you're capable of, and to use your tools. So one of the biggest tools that I use when I'm meditating, especially if I'm in a noisy place, Or when I'm just trying to find a little more calm in, say, a chaotic space, is Ujjayi. And that's that great sounding breath where we contract our throat a little bit and it makes that whooshing sound of wind in the trees or ocean waves. So we're going to be working with that a bunch in today's practice. And I always say, hey, do it as much as you can throughout your practice, but I'm going to give it more attention. One of the greatest parts of Ujjayi is not the active breath where you're hearing that whooshing sound. It's the quiet in between. It's the moment of pause where you're in non-active breath. You're not inhaling, you're not exhaling. It's right in that space between. So I encourage you to, as much as possible, try to seek out that space, try to elongate it, get greedy, become a treasure hunter, versus rushing to the next part of the active breath. I often feel like as human beings, we put a lot of value on doing. Okay, what's the next thing? What am I doing? What am I doing? So if you can, make the pause be the biggest thing that you're doing. I also found it really interesting. I was reading a thing by a monk a few months ago. Can't remember his name, sorry. But he was talking about omming. And of course, we often will omm and enjoy the vibration in our body and feel that we are participating in the vibration of all things. So again, it's the sound, right? It's the thing, it's the doing. He talked about the value of the space between. It said that's actually where the power and the beauty is this spaciousness between the actual ohms. Wow, that's a paradigm shifter. So it's just really fun to play with this and notice, mainly I would say notice what creates a state of calm for you. And then consider bringing that into life off the yoga mat, because I think as sound and other kinds of stress challenges are happening to us continually throughout the day, we need to make sure we have tools that we aren't just using on the mat. We need to be able to have them in our car or in conversation, for example. One of the greatest challenges of being in communication with other humans is really being an actual listener. I find this very difficult, by the way. You're all doing beautifully, or you appear to be. They're very receptive and attentive. But we know that when we're listening to people, generally we're spending most of our time cultivating our response. Man, that's hard to undo. So one tool, weirdly, that has been shown to help is paying attention to your breath, being a breath watcher while you're listening to someone. And that may seem strange. You might be like, but then aren't I distracted? I know it sounds weird, but next time you want to be present with someone you're listening to, maybe even just now to hear what I'm saying, try tuning into the rising and settling of your breath, just that, the inhale, the exhale, the gap between, and see if somehow you felt more present moment and connected to the person who was speaking and in fact what they were saying. So the breath and the Ujjayi, these tools can help us in immense ways in all kinds of places off the yoga mat. So when we start our practice and just our physical practice in a few moments, I'll be having you lie down in corpse pose, obviously bending knees or whatever's comfortable for you. We'll be there for a little bit longer than you might normally expect, practicing our Ujjayi. But I'm going to invite you to cultivate those 3 points of introversion: light connection, tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth, gaze up and in, third eye, and then that Ujjayi throat contraction. And once you've got that in place, I'm going to invite you to plug your ears, which is why I'm telling you all this right now. Plug your ears and allow a good, 9, 10, whatever breath cycles to happen. I'll chime the singing bowl when I'm encouraging you to let your ears be open. If you miss the signal and you just keep focusing on your breath, awesome, best yoga practice ever. Listening to me is not actually the end goal. It's being in your body, so yay. And I just want you to notice in those moments, how can you float in those moments of pause? How can you submerge yourself in them? Can you feel your heartbeat, sense your heart rate, maybe your blood pulsing? Maybe you notice something new in your body or even in your being that you hadn't been able to notice or hear because of the busyness of the mind. So when you're ready, we'll go to that place. Take time, have everything nearby that you need for comfort. And ideally, we'd love to lay flat, or if you want to be on a bolster, as some of you are, that is totally fine. When we move into compression and expansion breathing after this, we'll want to come off of those objects of support. Yeah, so when you're ready, come on down, get comfy, move around, make sure to kind of wing your shoulder blades in towards the spine. You might even actively rotate your palms open towards the sky for a moment. See if you can get broad through that heart and breath space, and then just relax the arms so they roll to whatever angle is natural. Scanning the neck and the spine, noticing if it would feel better to have your chin up and back a little bit. Maybe roll the head side to side a little bit. And then as you are ready, turn your gaze up and in, lightly connect the tongue, come into your Ujjayi, and then as you're ready, plug your ears. When you feel ready, releasing the plugging of the ears and tune back into Ujjayi with now the sounds of the space that is surrounding you, wherever that is. So we're going to practice for a few moments what I call that dual focus that I described, of listening inward and listening outward at the same time. It can be a difficult skill and a beautiful skill to cultivate. So these next few breaths, still tuning into your Ujjayi, the beautiful pause between, and trying to also listen outward. What can you witness surrounding you? Please continue with deep presence and attention as you now take your body into compression and expansion breathing. You can still use that Ujjayi. So if you are on something supported, you'll want to come off and be as flat as possible. In compression exhale, we are engaging the abdomen towards the spine and the low back in towards the yoga mat, ideally connecting completely that low back until we feel the pelvis tilting upward. Emptying, emptying, asking, is there more? You might be only asking little whispers of breath to empty until you simply can't empty any more. Then relax. Allow yourself to be breathed. Enjoy the sound of that breath wave. Again, asking, is there more? Can I sip in a little extra, expanding it? Where does that stretch arrive? For many of us, if you get a really good deep inhale, you'll get this wonderful last bit of stretch up into the clavicle and even into the trapezius area where we tend to hold a lot of doer tension. So again, make sure that you are seeking out that full range of compression, emptying, expansion, filling. Sometimes I will take my fingers to my abdominal area and tell all those muscles to get involved. So it might be the low abdominal muscles kind of between the hip bones that support the low vertebrae. It might be some of those intercostals around the ribs and diaphragm area. The more you can get them to contract, the more responsive they'll be in helping expand. So you might even place your hands on the ribs, and on those inhales, feel how the intercostals can help flare the ribs open, giving more space for the breath. This is great for us as human beings in general. The more oxygenated, the better. If for someone who has any athletic endeavors, you particularly would benefit from this greater breath capacity, the tonifying these muscles around the rib cage and breath apparatus will give you. Think about bringing inhale into your back as well. So one of my great challenges as I'm doing compression, that powerful emptying that you're all working on, one of my great challenges is not tightening my neck, my jaw, my tongue. So you want to keep scanning that area. And of course, relaxing the tongue, just keeping the tip of it connected to the roof of the mouth, maybe rolling the head side to side when you're in that deep engagement. That's great. I see a few people yawning. That was amazing. Simultaneous yawning. Great indicator that your body just went into rest and digest. Isn't that amazing? I love it. I love it, love it. I'm hoping that some of these inhale breath waves almost surprise you with their power of where they're moving, where they're touching you, where you're feeling fabric moving against your skin. I'm going to do about maybe 3-4 more depending on your breath length, and I'm going to invite you to add rock pose on the exhale. So on your exhale, compression, but then tightening the whole body, hands into fists, arms into the sides, glutes, thighs squeezing. And then on the inhale, releasing the arms up overhead. You might even add little organic stretches if you're inspired. And again, exhaling, compression rock pose. This is always to your breath timing. Asking, is there more? One more round. And when that last one is complete, please bring the knees into your belly. Nice little hug, rolling side to side. You can guide the knees in more tightly towards the belly and then further away, and observe where your body's receiving a massage against the floor. And then with your knees towards you, widen the knees for happy baby. So they're moving out so that they can draw down alongside the ribs. And you might be clasping at the ankle. You might be putting a strap over your arches or grabbing your big toes and drawing down. Please make sure to anchor the shoulder heads down the back. Again, keeping as loose in that neck space as you can. Tilting the tailbone down, using those beautiful core muscles that you just woke up, belly to spine. And let's apply a couple more big, greedy inhales. You can kind of press down towards the pelvis. I often think yoga is a great way to get a massage, basically, that you give yourself. But a lot of it comes from how you direct the breath. And then I'm going to move my hands to behind my kind of knees or thighs, right above the knees, and just relax my heels down to then prepare for half straddle. So now I'm extending one leg out to the side, kind of a half V, while I'm keeping the other leg just bent. If it's more comfortable for you to have that other foot on the floor, you can do that as well. Otherwise, you're just going back and forth, you know, that foot to the floor or hanging out by the butt. And I want you to notice how hard is it for you to straighten the leg. Sometimes it helps me to kind of bend it again and then press through the heel. And also point and flex and roll the ankles. There's a phenomenal connection, of course, between the feet and the tension up the lower leg that connects all the way up into our neck, into our skull, actually through the fascia. So just have a sense here as you're moving and creating flow that you're helping your whole body. And then we're going to bring those feet in for butterfly. If you like this version of butterfly, heels at the butt, go for it. And you can add a little sit up and maybe a little windshield wiper for movement into the hip. If you prefer feet on the floor, soles touching, you could relax there or even raise the hips for a little bit of strengthening. Let's take just a few more breaths with that. What are you finding? Can you breathe into it? And then we're going to release our feet to bridge pose. Feet are flat beneath the knees. And I'm going to work my shoulder blades towards the spine before I raise the hips, because this will reduce the pull along the spine as well as physical pressure to the cervical spine. So we're going to come in and out of bridge. The next time you're inhaling, seek the slowest descent you possibly can. Enjoy the fullness of inhale before exhaling and rising again. We'll continue here for another 3 or 4 rounds. Please keep imagining, if you will, that there's a block between your thighs. See, we're keeping that inner pressure. And then that you're sending the knees away from you, the heart up and back. Lovely Ujjayi, listening, finding the gap and pause. The next time you are up, we're going to add our foot hug. And I like putting my hands on my hip bones for this to make me more aware. Also, make sure your feet are not too far apart or it makes it unnecessarily hard. As I lift one foot just an inch or so off the floor, I'm trying to keep my hips stable. And of course, I'm noticing if one dropped and what does it take to reinvigorate that equal hip height. Can I do it while still breathing? Can I do it without tightening my neck? So many fun challenges. So much to pay attention to in this beautiful world of our body. If you'd like to take it into leg extension, then you're straightening the knee, keeping the knees the same height. So you're not taking the foot to the sky. You're just bending and unbending your knee. Slowly, slowly releasing, bringing knees to belly once again, a little side to side. I'm going to take it into spinal twist, and today I'm going to do kind of an active in and out of spinal twist. If you prefer the more to sort of hang out on one side and breathe for a while, go for it. Otherwise, right here, anchor your belly, keep those thighs connected if you can, so squeeze them together right here. I'm going to bring my arms out to a T, shoulders down. And as I'm ready, I'm inhaling here at the center. I'm going to exhale and slowly lower my knees to one side. I'm going to rotate my back arm, palm open to the sky while I take a big inhale. And then I'm going to exhale and bring my knees through center all the way to the other side. And then inhale, opening that back arm, maybe rotating the head behind. Is there? I bet there is. Exhaling through center to the other side with the idea.
Inhaling, opening that back arm, and reaching. I'm in fact using one arm to anchor my thighs. Other side. Good, I heard some beautiful Ujjayi coming from you. Long inhales, deep exhales. The next time you are open in one side, keep there and begin playing with that arm, sweeping it up by the head and then back out and down towards the hip, and just doing that a few times, exploring your shoulder. Obviously, if there's anything glitchy or funky, go very slow, get to know it better, be kind to it. As you're ready, we'll find the other side. That's one of the great gifts of being in our breath, in yoga in particular, but daily life, is it would be very rare that we get injured because we're so internally focused that we are able to listen to the signals. You might even circle the arm across the front of the body, back out behind. And then we're going to come up to seated. So you might use your hand to just kind of gently press up. We're going to continue with some of the flow creation from the feet and lower legs with a little self massage. We're going to do the lymph rub. It's actually something I learned through my niece's martial arts group, and that it helps create flow that actually helps create hip opening. So who knew that by touching your leg, you can help your hips, but there you go. So we're going to start with our thumbs, just kind of in that soft line that's between the shin bone and the calf. There are some pressure points right down low by the ankle here that actually can affect the uterus, believe it or not. So if you're pregnant or are trying to become pregnant, do not dig in right there. But otherwise, making your way up that pathway. And I like to do this in a way that the power is coming from the core and not from the shoulders and the neck. So I make a point of inhaling, straightening my spine, exhaling using some of that same power of compression exhale. And I'm using that as my power to apply my work here. As you're moving along, you're probably feeling some zingers. If you're not doing it right. Or you're an alien or something. Everybody has some sore spots in here, at least one or two. So as you're ready, we're going to go up that chain again, and we're going to take it a little slower. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes, because every time we remove one sense, we raise the awareness of the other. So closing the eyes so that we're kind of seeing inward, listening inward. And when you find your first zinger, pause, hold, and breathe. Finding the next zinger, and we're listening in deeply to our own Ujjayi, and most particularly space between. I like to kind of just rub with my full thumb down a line. And then we're going to release our legs and start whacking the calves against the floor. Just give us a nice circulation. Lymph does not get moved by itself. We need movement to help it. And I'm going to place my feet flat on the floor. I'm going to take my fist and just help create more from behind. And hoping you can do this without tightening your neck, your jaw. Now we're going to take those legs out wide in a straddle, and to the best of your ability, again, nice strong core, we're just going to take our fists and we're kind of slapping the outside of the leg, which is that IT bands area. One at a time, because I find it's less work. I can kind of just wiggle my torso and make it happen, but whatever works. And then I want you to just play your point, flex, curl. And we're going to create a little challenge, at least for some people it is, which is I'm going to ask you to flex your feet so firmly and power down so firmly through your quadriceps that your heel pops off the floor. If you can't make it,
Don't worry about it. Relax. See if you can do it again. Flex those toes back very firmly. See if you can get the heels off the floor. And then let's take it the opposite direction, a deep forward curl of the toes. So we're going to go back and forth like that. Another maybe half a dozen times, still breathing slowly and wide. So most of us have a lot more tension than we realize up the foot itself, the Achilles tendon, the calf. These things can really contribute to plantar fasciitis, to calf cramps at night, which I hear about from a lot of folks. And frankly, it creates a line of tension all the way up the hands that can contribute to low back pain and stuff. So we're going to take some of this stretching and playing into downward facing dog. So we'll be able to kind of see what it does for us there. If being in downward facing dog is just too much shoulder work or what have you for you, a nice alternative is just either standing and trying to work your foot to the floor like that, or standing at the edge of a step if you're at home, for example, or if anyone wants to use this, and you're letting one heel drop off of the edge. I realize I'm off the edge of the camera, to be able to get that stretch. Right? For now, we're going to come into table pose, do a little cow cat, and then when we're ready, we'll be moving into downward facing dog. So intelligent hands, that's really key. I want this powering down, but at the base of the index finger and thumb. And I remind you, your hands don't have to be directly below the shoulders. If you want them a little wider, that's more comfortable, go for it. Inhale, drawing the heart forward, cow pose. Is there more? Exhaling, cat pose, letting the head hang. And trying to find the pause between your most natural breath cycle, initiating movement. So what's in your spine today? How much comfort and ease? How much tension or strain? I want to add a little shoulder stretch before we go into our powerful downward facing dog. So nice core support here, almost like you're going into cat back. And I'm just going to walk one hand forward, so I'm coming into basically a half puppy. And if you can set your forehead to the floor, great. Or if you need to leave it suspended, that can be a marvelous stretch. Just make sure you're, again, using some nice core support so the shoulder feels very safe. And one of my favorite little add-ons here is I put my left hand forward, for example. I'm going to swing my left shoulder out to the outside and back. So I'm just swinging left and back to center. And one of the great gifts of that movement is it can create some kind of stretch and liberation through all these connections around the armpit and intercostals and lat muscles that are actually a huge part of our shoulder health or discomfort. So as you're ready to come back to table, nice core support, take the other arm out, maybe resting the head or maybe being suspended. Each inhale, an invitation to lift in the body, and the exhale, settle. You notice how inhale and exhale each create their own possibilities for stretch, right? A little massage, it's a great thing to do. So you're ready, returning to your table. Another cow cat, and when you're ready, joining me in downward facing dog. I personally often prefer a bigger distance between my hands and my feet than what going from table will give me. So sometimes I just anticipatively I move my hands forward before I even set my hips up and back to downward facing dog. Right away, asking you to go into some marvelous pedaling. Pressing one heel towards the mat, other. Nice core support, hips are high. And as you're ready, please hold one heel towards the mat and breathe. If you feel you can hold for a couple of breaths, please do, because you might feel that stretch growing, right? Like I feel it first in the calf, and then as I hold there, I feel it work its way up into my hamstrings. Go ahead and play with the other foot, feeling the other legs stretch. And noticing if they're different, by the way.
But sometimes we know, like, wow, I'm a lot tighter on my back on one side, but we may not realize that it's the whole posterior line. When you feel complete, please come into child's pose. Let those knees go wide, relax. You can use your hands as support for the head. Some people like child's pose with the arms forward, arms back. Yeah, you might place a block under the forehead. A long exhale, once again, coming up into your table pose. And I'm going to invite you in downward facing dog again. So cow, cat, and breath initiating motion. Downward facing dog when you're ready. I'm going to ask you to scan your body and just notice if there's anywhere that is what we call unnecessary tension. So it's your neck, your jaw, your tongue, maybe wrists, any adjustments you can make, nice core support, and ever so slowly taking one leg flying. You could do this in table as well, and it would be less intensive on shoulders. One leg flying. Did you change anything in the body? Did you slide your shoulders from side to side? When you bring the foot back, that's when you might notice, like, oh yeah, I had slid to the side. So nice core support, power for pushing the floor away, and as you take your other leg flying, trying not to make any other changes or compensations. Breathe, notice, and release that foot. Good, we're gonna inhale and come into our knee down plank. If you wanna do cow cat instead or resting, of course, you're always welcome. As we exhale into our chaturanga low push-up, check that your hands really are fully under the shoulders and not forward the shoulders. And then the body's a nice kind of straight line from knee to head. And I'm just gonna bend those elbows maybe 1 inch and feel the effort in the triceps, I hope. And then maybe go a little lower. And then as you're ready, all the way to the floor. Anchor the pelvis and inhale to your cobra. We're gonna come in and out, exhaling, relaxing, inhaling, extending. So when we're in cobra, we want no wings, no shrugs. So that means elbows are in, shoulders are down, and for the most part, the neck is pretty relaxed, all right? So even though it's holding your head on, it's not straining otherwise. So I'm making no effort to look up or anything like that. A nice neutral neck. One more. And then pressing back, either child's pose or downward facing dog. What is your body craving? So how lovely that ability to listen inward and very efficiently hear the body say, this is what I need. This is what would benefit us. This is what would create the most wholeness. We're going to be coming into a little warrior flow. And some of you love coming there from downward facing dog, leg flying. Feel free to do that. You can go downward facing dog, right leg flying. Otherwise, we'll be coming from our mountain pose front of the mat. And we'll be taking our left leg back into our crescent lunge. And so we're doing a couple of things that are a little different than our normal warrior flow. I like to shake it up a little bit. So first, we're just going to do some nice knee dips with that left knee. And then see if there's a place you feel that you could hold with comfort and ease, maybe a little effort and stretch, and then raising the arms. If it feels great in your body, raise the heart and the chin and draw a deep breath. And I'm hoping some of us might feel stretch all the way through that front line. And as you come up a little bit, you kind of straighten that leg, and then we're going to plant that back foot 90 for our warrior 2. Everyone check that your front foot and knee are tracking. Tune into your beautiful Ujjayi. I'm going to be floating here for about a half a dozen breaths. So if that's too much, if it hurts your knee, just reduce the depth of your lunge. Again, everyone, you should see your foot and knee tracking. If your knee is going to the inside of your foot at all, squeeze that right butt cheek and send it towards the center line. Externally rotate the thighs. I'm going to ask you to just take a break for a moment and straighten your front leg. And you can keep it that way if you prefer it, but I really like what we're going to do next with the bend knee. So if your thigh can handle it, bend it again. And as we're ready, we're going to inhale, sweep that right arm up, and then relax it down. We're going to do that a number of times. Inhaling up and back. Maybe following it with your vision, exhaling release. One more. We'll bring that right elbow towards the right thigh. I'm going to reach the left arm out beyond the head and lateral stretch. And here too, I'm going to create some pumping. So I'm going to bring my left elbow back down towards my ribs like I'm pulling back on something. And I'm going to reach beyond and pull back. You can have the face, by the way, wherever it's most useful for your neck. Last one, a nice long inhale to reach, and then I'm going to nice core support, rotate and bring that left hand to the floor, or you might enjoy the presence of a block. Either way, take your feet a little less on a balance beam. So I usually just scooch my right foot out to the side a little more. Now I'm going to inhale and rotate to the right and open like I'm pushing the ceiling away with my right palm. Exhale, neutral. We're going to do that a few times. Inhaling, open. So nice power in that back leg as you're doing this. I don't want a dropping of the knee or the hip. This is a beautiful engaged lunge with that left leg moving towards the sky. As you release palms towards the floor, we're going to move to our straddle. So you're just going to rotate your feet, and there you are. Nice straddle, forward fold, and now side to side movement. So we've been doing a lot of work in the front and the back line so far. I'm hoping now you get in touch with some of that inner and outer line. Again, those IT bands that we were pounding on, they only can relax when they are outside of the center line. So if you're a leg crosser, for example, know that every time you cross your leg across the center line, you're pulling tight on the IT, and that connects up with the joints, your knees, and so on. So your choice here, folks, as we come out of our straddle, choice to move to downward facing dog and into a round dog series, or you could just hang out in downward facing dog, or move into child's pose, or of course any other spinal muscle your body's craving. Remember, as you inhale to your plank, knees, or feet, make sure those hands really are feeling pretty great about their job the whole week at this point. Exhaling chaturanga, chest precedes hips. Inhaling cobra, or if you'd like, upward facing dog. So you can be on the tops of the feet or balls of the feet. Exhaling, downward facing dog or child's pose. I'm going to play once again with working my heels towards the and we'll make our way into our warrior flow on the other side. Some of us will return to mountain at the front of the mat. Others might go to downward facing dog, left leg flying. If you're coming from mountain with me, just walk that right foot back into its crescent lunge. And a note about crescent lunge, really important hip positioning. In this case, left hip going back, right hip going forward, so you can feel kind of the thighs look in. You should feel really stable and strong. And then as you're ready to start dipping that right knee, just playing, noticing, is this side different? Obviously, you might actually have a knee joint that needs you to pay attention, or it might just be the soft tissue going, wow, this side's tighter, that side isn't. Holding into whatever your position is you want to play with, and maybe adding that reach of the arms and the heart for that extra stretch down into the belly. Coming back up a bit to safely, slowly open warrior two. And usually as we move into our warrior two lunge, we want to deepen the stance. There's usually room to scooch that front foot forward. We're working towards 90 degrees with the knee. We don't care if it ever gets there. And opening up into your version. And be here for maybe half a dozen breaths or so. Nice Ujjayi, finding the quads, knee. So please, when you're ready, give that front leg a break and straighten in a moment. And then as you're ready, you might bend it again if you liked that version we did before. Inhaling, sweeping that left arm up and back. And relaxing. So using that left arm, reaching out and back. Yeah, so it's giving us a nice stretch right through that left side of the body, all the way again up into those intercostals and shoulder connections. One more. And exhaling, settling forward, lateral stretch, elbow to thigh. Again, check that that butt is not out behind, send it towards the center line. We don't want to oversend, I want neutral. And then I'm gonna reach that right arm out beyond the head and pull it back. And you can align this movements with the breath, or you can just breathe slow and deep, but move quickly. The world is your oyster. Of course, now I can't say the word oyster without thinking about oysters on the half shell. Which I know not everybody loves. I adore them. All right, as you're ready, we are going to move into our spinal twist. So I'm going to take my right hand down, maybe put a block underneath. I'm going to scooch my foot further to the outside of the mat. And inhaling, open, press the palm towards the sky. Exhale, release. A few times. You can speed the breath up if you like. Sometimes it feels good to pulse the breath and speed it. Majority of the time, we want to get it slowing down, the opposite of regular life. And once again, I'm going to invite you to move into your straddle. So just walk those feet until you're able to go side to side, and encouraging you to hold at one point. Just hold on one side. My favorite way to do this is I kind of walk my hands over, say to my right foot, for example, and I'm going to get my elbow down in by that calf of that same leg. So I don't want to go beyond. I don't want my hands to the outside of the foot, because in general, that's going to make me torque my knee a little bit. I want to be tucked right nice inside. So I'm bringing like my right kind of ribs and waist tight inside of my right thigh. And exploring the other side. So if you get the core involved here, you can do some beautiful pumping, folding, breathing. And you feel complete. One last opportunity for dog series if you'd like it. Remember the words, if you'd like it, if your body would benefit from it, if it feels like wholeness, a beautiful conclusion to move all of that energy through. You could also just hold forearm plank if you're wanting kind of the power, but without as much of the wrist work. What's your heart rate? You guys look strong and peaceful. I love it. I love it when I look out. There's a dozen people all doing something different. Like, yay, you're listening to your system. Good job. And that all feels settled in your body. We're going to come onto our back body, have your block handy. We're going to do one of our more important poses that we do almost every practice, usually at the beginning. And we're going to move into our reclined pigeon. And then we will also be playing with the block under the sacral triangle. So reclined pigeon, you're planting both your feet like you're going to go into bridge. And you're simply going to cross your right ankle onto your left thigh. Keeping the heels flexed, really important for knee stability and safety. Then I'm going to raise my left foot off the floor, and I'm going to take both hands to my right knee and hug it as tight to my right chest as I can before sending it a little towards the center line. And ideally, that should bring you into some good massage experience usually kind of along in that piriformis line. For some people, it might continue into the outer or even inner leg. So that's not a bad thing. It's just, that's where your lines of tension are. Send breath in there. Try to stay relaxed in the neck, even though you're kind of using the power of the arms. And of course, in your own time, switching all the time you like. What you notice on this side, is it different? What is the texture of your breath like when you are in a hip stretch? Hip stretches are really interesting because they're very physical, but also can be have an emotional component. You might not be super conscious of it. I don't mean that you're going to all of a sudden be like, crying or what have you, although that can happen. But the hip area is so much about feeling safe in the world and moving through the world. And so often when we dive into that area with our breath and so on, we might become aware of like, wow, I just felt really hard lately, or I'm protected, or whatever might be going on. When you are complete with that, notice what your body craves. It might need knees to belly, it might need another bridge pose, etc., just as a kind of counter shape. And then we're going to take a block, or you could use a folded blanket or something softer if you prefer it. I use these great little hugger mugger Safuko cushions that I love. And you're going to place your feet like you do for bridge, raise the hips, tuck that block or object under so it's right at the sacral triangle, not in the low back arch. And I want to remind you there are two very distinct postures here. One is with the feet flat, knees bent, just giving your hip weight to the block. And that has the potential to create some nice tractioning where it kind of tucks the tailbone down as you let your low back settle towards the floor. Conversely, you can do the leg extended and they're just flopped and let the ankles roll open. And in this position, there's an opportunity for a stretch and release through hip flexors, quads, low abdomen, you name it. In all these positions, of course, the breath is the change agent, tuning in, finding the gap and pause. If that's been useful to you today in your efforts to stay present and really find that fullness of breath, the gap between, or if you've perhaps found your own either question or phrase, any kind of mantra, patient enough to really see it through the full evolution. Staying here only as long as it feels amazing. And then coming off, and once again, you might crave a counter pose, maybe you crave knees to belly, for example. I'm inviting you to return your feet flat to the floor, but wide. So right out in kind of the edge of the mat or even beyond. And we're gonna take that right knee down towards the center line. And we do this really slowly. If you feel any like pull at the joint or something icky, obviously just don't go as far. But otherwise allowing that knee to settle towards the floor and then reaching the right arm up and behind. So here's a nice deep stretch again through the front line. You can even kind of press your knee further towards the floor, but mainly the deepness of breath is what counts. And in order to switch, return your arm towards the body, then switch the knees. Left knee now coming towards the center line, left arm reaching. I often benefit from rotating my face away from the arm. This feels better to me. And turning the arms, switching the knee. And you can keep patting the arm and doing slow holds, or you can also just do a slow back and forth windshield viper with the knees. And then please slowly walk the feet all the way in so that the inner line of the feet are touching, the inner line of the thighs are touching. Work your shoulder heads in because we're moving into a version of bridge. And then as you're ready, without allowing any separation of the leg, raise the hips off the floor. They will not go as high as they do in regular bridge. The goal is to keep contact through the thighs, really waking up that inner line. And slowly release, inviting you once again, bring knees to belly, and then widen the knees and straighten both legs out towards straddle. And we kind of got my elbows on the floor, my hands sort of under the outside of the leg, just for a little bit of support. And point and flex and roll. I'm curious what you've noticed about the lines of tension of the back, inner, outer, front bodies. Release. So what would be a preferred position for you for our pranayama? We're going to do some closing pranayama breath work and then moving into shavasana, or if you do seated meditation or whatever your preference. So please take these next few moments. Maybe you want to get a drink of water, maybe you want to grab a shawl to cover with. Maybe you'd like to be propped on a bolster after it to be marvelously restorative. So our first point of attention will be simply returning to the Ujjayi and the pause between. We'll do that for probably a minute or so, and then I'll move you to our next practice. So eyes turn up and in, light connection, tip of the tongue, move to the mouth. Mouth is closed unless you're too stuffy and you need to open it to breathe fully. As you add your Ujjayi, I'm going to ask you to play with what in your body is the right amount of throat tension. So we have to create a little bit of compression in order to create the Ujjayi. But then there are subtle differences. I'd love to find one that doesn't create a lot of other tension in your throat or neck, for example. Sometimes I find if I add just a very soft smile, it creates a deeper state of relaxation through my face and neck muscles. Notice if the mind wanders and forgets to see the pause between the active parts of the breath. Completely normal. You'll never resolve that. Just notice that it's happened, return your attention. And you to transform your breath practice now into breath blocks, external and internal kumbhaka. So the next time you're exhaling, you simply empty and then hold out. And it's just a soft, natural emptying, not a compression exhale. And holding out, you're listening deeply, heart rate, blood, and any tensions that the body responds with. So do you tighten in your lungs or your face or your neck? Can you soften around holding? Knowing that you can breathe whenever you want to. Bringing out with a little bit of discomfort or intensity. When you're ready to inhale, do and hold in internal breath walk. Noticing the effects of the breath walk on the body, heartbeat, so softening and all. Another moving to your next round. If you need a natural breath in between, nice. From holding in to holding out. Do a couple more rounds and then I'll chime in the whole to let all breath effort go. All breath effort, tension, allowing your body to settle into a quiet space, yogic sleep or deep meditation. Here where all integration and healing is possible. inviting you to become lightly aware of my voice drifting to you, blending with your awareness of your breath, rising and settling. Because of our conversation around the power of Omm and the space between, I wanted to reintroduce Omming and practice today. We used to do it all the time. Delighted to have you join in. Happy to have you to stay in your place of stillness and serenity and let our Omms come to you, whatever feels right. But reminding you, we're not trying to be in sync. We're not trying to have our Omms happen at the same time or at a certain note or anything else. So this is purely about allowing your inhale to be full before inviting the Omm to move out of the body, and then really enjoying that space as you take your next inhale. We'll do 3. Om Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me at the mat today. Thank you for your curiosity, your willingness to explore Ujjayi at a new depth. I hope it was fun, relaxing, energizing, all the things. And look forward to seeing you again soon at the mat. There is no practice next Tuesday morning. I'm at a conference out of town. So reminder that we do have the videos on YouTube. In fact, this one's being recorded. On Patreon, people have access to the link automatically. If you want access to it, let me know if it's something you want to do next Tuesday. Thanks again, folks. Have fun being you. Fun finding your own quiet out in the wild, noisy world. Thanks so much to Samantha and Hannah. So glad you guys were here. Really appreciate it. Glad you could make it to the mat from all of the places.